Housekeeping, can you tell me where the coffee stations are? Can you tell me where the washroom is? Can you tell me where the exits are? I like these finger points. Okay, right around. Perfect. Where can you smoke?
Not here.
Not here, not in the building. Outside of the building, 5 meters away from any of the main doorways, and just keep your phones on vibrate, just to not disturb the classroom, please, and thank you. This agenda is not distracting us. For our course objectives for today, defining an emergency vehicle, explaining the legal aspects of an ambulance operation via the Traffic Safety Act and use of highway rules and road regulations, and describing the rules of road and how they apply to emergency vehicles. The other course objectives, guys? Good, safe place? Okay. So, emergency vehicle. What constitutes an emergency vehicle in Alberta?
Lights and sirens.
Lights and sirens is correct.
Associated with the 911.
Yes, associated with 911. Have you seen any other emergency services? One is a branch of AMA, yes, a tow truck might be a emergency service. What else?
Stop. It's a firefighter's emergency. Yeah.
So anyone associated with 911, but yes, firefighters is also an emergency vehicle. There's one more emergency vehicle that we might not commonly see on the road, but they are definitely emergency vehicles when they have their lights or sirens active. Less common.
Maybe evacuator.
Buses.
Not buses.
Sirens.
Police.
If you smell eggs,
Sulfur?
is it? Oh shoot, what is it?
Hazards?
No.
Hazmat team? Oh
No, a hazmat team would be an emergency vehicle, so yes, absolutely. Smell eggs or farts. If you smell eggs or farts, what do you, oh shoot, you broke my table. Okay, leave it on the side, it's A-okay. Oh, look at you, handyman over here. Anyway, if you smell eggs or farts, what can that
Utilities?
Utilities, there we go. So
Oh,
utility
okay.
emergency vehicle. They will have sirens, they will have emblems. They are supposed to go to a scene that requires their attention for a gas leak. So that's another emergency vehicle that you might see on the road. So if you see them coming through, give them right away the same way that you would for an ambulance. What's that?
Epcor would count?
Epcor,
Yeah,
yes,
that's on
ACCO.
there.
I think in Calgary, maybe NMAX. There's a couple different companies for different municipalities. Just make sure you're current with those. But now we're gonna have a video that describes what an emergency vehicle is, or just shows what an emergency vehicle is.
When an emergency calls for traffic can be really stressful, really frustrating.
We want to save lives, that is our first priority. If we're hindered in any way, then exempting that person on property that further is.
Just like
Minutes can make a difference sometimes. On top of trying to get there quickly and safely, you're mapping and you're also dealing with traffic.
What we encounter more often than anything else is vehicles not knowing what to do.
Or people are confused.
If everything stops,
I actually had somebody rear-end me while I pulled over.
and then everybody just kind of goes this way, that way. I think I'm supposed to stop, but I don't know for sure.
You wind up in a traffic jam, nobody can move anywhere.
Luckily now, we've been severely delayed here. I can't get through, I can't see around.
It becomes a little tough to work in these conditions.
Traffic is our number one obstacle.
A lot of drivers actually freeze.
They tend to stop in the middle of the intersection, thereby blocking the intersection, blocking us.
Sometimes we have to hop up on the meridians just to get out of the way or perform emergency braking.
It creates a dangerous situation both for us and for the vehicles around us.
First of all, don't panic. They should then look in the rearview mirror and see what vehicle is coming up behind them.
When you see that we're coming up behind you, move to the right.
We train our drivers to pass on the left, so that's why we'd like the citizens to move to the right.
And then stop. Do this slowly, carefully, and safely.
And for them to wait until they're sure that all the emergency vehicles have passed.
And then you can just continue on your way.
Having people do the right thing, like pulling over to the right and stop, is critical for us to get through such high volumes to get to an emergency incident.
So that video lovely describes our situations as emergency vehicles on the road responding to whatever scenario ahead of us. You're gonna have a lot of varied responses on the roadways, whether that could be like we were observing, vehicles stopping dead out on the roadway, not creating that space. Maybe not moving fully over, only moving maybe half your vehicle over, following very closely to the rear end of your bumper. There's a ton of different things that could be taking place in those situations. So being able to have a level head and know how to respond in those situations, because sometimes we might be dealing with elderly youth who are just learning how to drive and don't know how to respond. Maybe these sirens and the lights get them to be anxious and not be able to think clearly. You cannot blame the driver at that point because it's not something that we necessarily are trained for unless you take a driving school and are properly put through these situations yourself. So just being acknowledging of that as an emergency vehicle operator. So the Traffic Safety Act defines an emergency vehicle as an ambulance operated by a person or organization providing ambulance services. A vehicle operated by police services, fire services, and gas disconnection units of a public utility are also considered emergency vehicles. What are some other examples of lights that can be put on top of the vehicle? What are their colors? I see it.
Orange.
What does orange mean usually? What is amber? Or sorry, orange, yeah. What does orange usually mean?
Construction or like tow trucks.
Construction or tow trucks, they've now added a blue light, usually with the construction or tow truck units to make them more visible. Usually construction is expected to continue with their orange. Well, roadside services will have the combination of both. What about green lights? Green sirens, have you ever seen those? What do those usually mean? Volunteer firefighters will usually have the green lights above their vehicles to indicate they're responding to an emergency. You might have those in smaller municipalities. What about a purple light? A purple flashing light.
Snow removal?
Not snow removal. Purple flashing light. It's not an emergency vehicle, but it does have some limitations that it can there are some things that it can do on the road that other vehicles may not be able to do. Purple flashing light will be for funeral services. It'll be the lead car at a funeral procession. That vehicle lead car is able to proceed through intersections even on a red, and sure traffic on all sides must yield to that vehicle. The vehicles following will have their hazard lights active while following this funeral procession vehicle. If at any point that line for the traffic following that funeral procession leave or create too much of a distance or a gap, now that traffic has to follow the laws and regulations of the road. But as long as you're in that nice little Congo line behind that vehicle in a procession car, you may continue through intersections at a slow speed and have right of way over all other traffic.
So would they get a ticket if there's a camera there?
No, they shouldn't. And if it is, I think you can fight it in court because they'll have the little purple light on the car, and they will have records of when that funeral procession was expected to be in. Okay. So what can you do with an emergency vehicle?
Drive.
Yeah, you can drive, 100%. What else can you do? Speed. Can you just go like, I don't know, 160 on 100? No.
No, 15 kilometers more.
15 kilometers an hour or more. And if it changes, it's based off of your policy with your company, or if there's any other defining characters in your Traffic Safety Act that you're able to kind of go over. But usually it's 15 kilometers an hour. The Traffic Safety Act authorizes emergency medical operators to disregard some traffic laws under limited circumstances. Can you think of any other traffic laws that you may overlook or may bend?
On the red light with the sirens that goes.
You can go through a red light. You would still have to do what?
A yield?
You would still have to yield, check both directions before you go through. If you don't yield and you get into a collision, you are liable and you will be charged as if you were running a red light. So make sure you're yielding, confirming it's safe to proceed. And even if it's safe to proceed, make sure that it is not so much given, but you just confirm that nothing else will take place. If there's someone that's going to run in front of you, don't fight it. Wait for them to proceed, and then you finish off. What other laws can we disregard?
Drive on the shoulder.
You can drive on the shoulder. Yes, absolutely. Anything else? U-turns are permitted. Absolutely. You're still making sure that you're not going to hit anyone. Anything else? if your way of traffic is completely blocked up.
Oh, they can
traffic.
pass me. They can go onto oncoming.
Oncoming traffic, absolutely. You can take the opposite side of the road. You still have to be safe about it. Lights and sirens need to be active. You can also go on the wrong direction of a one-way if your incident is maybe on the edge of the block of a one-way. You can be heading towards it rather than doing the full circle around the block. But again, lights and sirens always need to be active. And then when you're pulled over, your lights still need to be in effect to show that you are responding to a scenario or an emergency. To meet these requirements of these circumstances means that the driver may be subject to civil and criminal penalties in the event of a collision. And even during the most serious emergencies, an emergency medical operator must always consider the safety of others. Sirens. A siren is on an emergency vehicle, can be operated only when the vehicle is being used in response to an emergency call, or an alarm. Make sure your alarms or your siren is not just activated because you want to make a left turn at an intersection because it's taking so long, or complete a U-turn, or you activate your sirens after getting into a collision. Don't do that. And then what happens when the sirens are on?
People should be pulling over.
People should be pulling over, 100%. I'll give you one of them. Think of the last time you were driving and you saw an emergency vehicle with the sirens on. So what did you do? Pulled over. What else did you do? Stopped. Absolutely. We're going to talk about like lane position as a commuter, what direction you should go in if you're ever pulling over on a 3-lane roadway compared to a 2-lane roadway or even a 4-lane roadway. What are your expectations? What did the emergency vehicle do when it was passing you?
Just drive.
Was it just zooming on by?
No.
Without consideration? It was probably alarming you, beeping that horn, that button with the siren active, making sure that you have your attention. Not just squeezing by, but making sure that they have enough space, not making any risk of damaging, because if you do perform any damage, you're expected to pull over. I believe you're supposed to pull over or to exchange your information, at least for your supervisor, so that it can be responded with the unit. And then what did the other drivers do around you? So you might have been doing everything right, but what did the other drivers do?
The same.
The same. Some of them do the same, but some of them do some pretty wacky stuff.
Some follow it.
Some of them follow it super close, super duper duper close. They tailgate the ambulance to try to beat the lights. Absolutely. Anything else? Sorry, I heard another answer over here.
People just stop sometimes.
People just stop, dead end. They're just completely stopped on the roadway. They don't pull over and they just block traffic. What else does traffic do? After the ambulance is passed and you're ready to get on your lane, what do you see that some people do?
Cut you off.
They cut you off and they take your position, so being aware of that, not just going right into your lane, checking your shoulder, making sure it's properly clear. And how are these actions different from the way people normally drive? Similar to the video that we watched at the very beginning, it was lots of movement of the camera, lots of zoom-ins, lots of music, lots of loud noises, and what does that create? Distractions. It also creates just a tense moment. People, when they're tense, don't think clearly, so we can expect that that is different in those scenarios. Because of this noise that comes out, because of these lights that come out, because of the fast approaching vehicle, it's different than what they would be normally doing. So maybe a driver is completely fine on their own without a siren, but when they see a siren, they just go into their natural instincts of like, what the heck am I supposed to do here? And they start making poor decisions. So, emergency vehicles and the rules of the road, so we're going to be talking about that with this video and then discussing it after.
Time is the enemy in any emergency. You can help emergency responders get to the scene as quickly as possible by following the rules of the road. When an ambulance, police car, or fire truck is behind you with their lights and siren activated, clear the intersection. If driving on a road with 1 or 2 lanes, move your vehicle to the right side of the road. Remember to use your turn signal. If driving on a road with 3 or more lanes, clear the intersection and move your vehicle to the nearest side of the road. Remember to use your turn signal. When in the center lane, drive your vehicle to the right side of the road. Come to a complete stop and wait for the emergency vehicle to pass you. Shoulder check to make sure there are no more emergency vehicles or other drivers approaching before you continue driving. Be considerate of other drivers as you re-enter the traffic flow. Remember to use your turn signal. Keep at least 150 meters between your vehicle and the emergency vehicles that just passed you. Thanks for following the rules of the road and helping emergency responders get to the scene as quickly as possible.
Perfect. So we know how to respond in those situations. Oh shoot, so with that bit there, we saw when there's an emergency situation, you don't just stop in the intersection, you'll try to clear it and then proceed to pull over after the fact. And I've had a situation where I was in Calgary and I was pulling over for an emergency vehicle, and this was before I saw this video, and I'm like, okay, first emergency vehicle is gone. And I was about to move over, but then there was another one, and there was another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. There were 6 police cars that just zoomed by, and usually they're pretty blacked out, so sometimes it can be hard to see without their sirens. So just being available and aware that yes, there may be more, so don't just kind of just think one is done. Same thing if vehicles are crossing your direction, make sure you're properly checking your sides of where they came from in that direction, make sure there's no more, as sound can do incredible things and you might miss out on something that's pretty important. So what can you do with your sirens on? You can drive this vehicle over the speed limit, you can proceed past a traffic control signal indicating a stop or a stop sign without stopping while yielding. You can ignore any rules in the Traffic Safety Act when safe to do so. Any rules is a very broad term, I'd be careful with that. Make sure you talk to a senior driver or your supervisor or manager, someone who's well acquainted with the laws and what you're able to actually do before you bend those rules. But in most cases, you're able to tweak around certain aspects of the Traffic Safety Act. Right away with the sirens on. So according to the Traffic Safety Act, when you are an emergency vehicle is sounding a siren, vehicles must yield right of way to you immediately by moving clear of any intersections, moving to the right side of the road if it has 2 lanes, moving to the near side of the road if it has 3 or more lanes, and then moving to the right if in the center lane, and stopping until the emergency vehicle has passed and checking that no other emergency vehicles are approaching. Following distance. Remember that drivers must not follow within 150 meters of an emergency vehicle that has its sirens or lights operating. If you notice that their vehicle is following quite closely when they pass, take note of their license plate and you'll have a system to report their license plate for that unsafe maneuver. Just saying that, I'm just saying that. Act as a peace officer. So in some consideration or in some matters, you are able to take the perform the duties of a peace officer. I would be very, very careful with this action here. In all cases, I would just wait until a peace officer arrives. You don't want to put hands on anyone or make any controls for people unless you are 100% willing to take any civil liability with that situation. So while you are able to, ask your manager, ask your supervisor, ask any senior staff what is the correct response to do in this situation. We just have this information through AMA. I can't speak on that fact completely. Your parking. An emergency vehicle may, if safe to do so while its lights are flashing, park without following the rules of the road based off of the Traffic Safety Act and any municipal bylaws and other regulations. Slow down and move over. When drivers are in the closest lane to any stopped roadside vehicle with flashing lights active, police, ambulance, fire trucks, tow trucks, maintenance trucks, they must move over to the far left lane or far lane to give workers extra space. And if they can safely move over, they must be slow, or if they cannot safely move over, they must slow to at least 60 kilometers an hour or posted speed limit, whichever is slower. Now, it says here to move over, give extra space, but if you're noticing that this road is quite congested, I think I said this on Monday, a practice that I really want you to get used to is staying a very slow speed and staying in that right lane. You're mitigating and you're controlling an area so that traffic doesn't just swerve out of the left lane and zoom by on the right lane, putting those emergency vehicles at risk. If you're practicing a slow speed, you're mandating that speed for that traffic, and it'll keep that area safer. You'll realize that when you're actually responding to emergencies, say on the side of the highway or on busy roadways, what that feels like. So practicing that for other drivers is really good to do at whatever occasion that you can. Question, if you're on the middle, so if it's a 3-lane roadway, you have an emergency vehicle with their lights on the right side of the road, and they're doing whatever procedure. Right lane should go what speed? 60 unless a sign otherwise posted. What about the middle lane and the left lane? What speed do they go?
To the right.
You're supposed to just slow down to a safe speed.
I heard it. You are supposed to slow down to a safe speed, but that safe speed isn't mandated by any speed limit. So if you're in the middle or the left lane, you could technically go 1 kilometer below the speed limit and still be technically under that protection of doing your due diligence. But I don't want you to be 1 kilometer over, or sorry, 1 kilometer under. You want to be near that number, and if you don't want to practice something over that speed limit, move over to the right lane, practice the safe speed. But you are expected to slow down, but there's no actual speed limit set. So the middle lane, left lane can continue. It's the right lane that needs to slow down. In the future, this might be changed. It used to be all lanes, but now it's just one. Proactive driving definition, just as we had on our ABC course. Does anyone remember what proactive driving definition is? That's fine. Avoid conflict and collisions with other road users with proper planning, vigilant use of visual skills. What about defensive driving? Man, I must have.
Driver with a gun.
Very, very tough class. Or very boring class, I should say. Sorry. Driving to save lives, time, and money in spite of conditions around us and the actions of others. We are going to be defensive drivers in all cases to keep ourselves and everyone else on that roadway safe. This is especially the case as an ambulance operator. Don't create work for yourself. It gives you the pocket, even if it gives you the dough. Defensive driving for ambulance drivers. Defensive driving includes an emphasis on awareness of other drivers' potential actions and intentions. So this is where it's really important to watch body language of the other vehicles. What you can see that their intentions are. Are they steering? Are their heads moving while they're hearing their sirens? Is there any steering with their hands? Do they look distracted? That is what you're looking for as a driver. You're looking for those visual cues. Driving to avoid collision and reduce damage from unavoidable collisions. Be aware of blind spots, as your blind spots are much larger. Safely changing lanes, crossing intersections and maneuvering the vehicle. Managing fatigue and other distractions. Handling the ambulance in varying weather conditions. So we talked about fatigue and distractions, which is going to be very, very common with the work that you do. You might be working some really odd hours. If you're working in an oil field, you might be working overnight, which could be leading you to go through fatigue. If you ever have downtime where you have nothing to do, try not to just sit down in your chair and just doze off. As when you get up, you might be disoriented, you might not be making the best skills, you might also be sleepy. Try to keep yourself active, stretching, walking, cleaning your equipment, organizing your equipment, just taking advantage to make your job easier for the long run. And for your distractions, what distractions do we find in the ambulance? Your dash, absolutely. There might be a lot more on your dash, like what?
GPS and light.
Totally. Your lights, your
main computer there.
Yeah, your main computer, your tablet that might be on the screen, your siren bar. You might have more of your equipment stashed in the middle or behind your seat. You might have a screaming patient in the back of your ambulance. That can make it very difficult for you to concentrate on the road. You might be getting directions from your partner as they're dealing, so things might be really, really just kind of overblown with the situation. It might be hard for you to kind of keep your focus, but try your best to maintain your focus on the road, because that is what your job is in that situation. Your safety scan. Shoot, I wanted to test you on it. Search, identify, predict, decide, execute. You know exactly what that's like. We want to be practicing every time we can. Can you guys give me an example of what you would be looking for on a roadway?
Pedestrians.
Pedestrians. Say pedestrians. So, I'm going to give you a situation with a pedestrian. You're going to tell me what your situation would be to react. You saw a couple kids, skateboarding, longboarding on the right side of the road. One of them have a wobbly foot and seem to be learning. As you're approaching, you're going 60 kilometers an hour. You see traffic zooming by on the left lane, doing lots of passing, lots of over the speed. The lights potentially might be changing as you see a still fresh light. So what are you identifying, or sorry, what are you predicting with that situation there? What can you predict from my little painting that I just made?
The kid could fall off a skateboard and maybe onto the road.
Yes, absolutely. What else?
The light can turn red.
100%.
And then other cars are speeding, so people don't watch for any sudden change lanes.
Bingo bango, absolutely. And with that still green light, we're also watching that other traffic on the cross direction. if that light were to change, that maybe they might proceed through the intersection. What if there's a vehicle coming from the opposite direction? They have to swerve to get away. Monitor your position. Always predict what could happen in the worst case scenario, but everything that was described there was excellent, exactly what I wanted to use for our safety and applying our safety. So visual lead time, how far do you want to look in an urban area? How many seconds?
20.
Close.
15.
12 to 15 seconds, absolutely, in an urban or in a rural area. Yes, double it, sorry. Rural areas. We want to do look as far as you can, you want to double it, so it's going to be 20 to 30 seconds off the roadway. Okay, now we're going to watch a video, and it's going to be about where you should be looking down the road. We've already touched base throughout this the entire week, but we'll watch this video anyway.
This is a racing driver's helmet. Imagine driving at 300 kilometers per hour and you only have this much window. Your own vehicle has a lot more windshield. There's a good chance you're not using it correctly.
We have a graphic illustration for you. Too many drivers look down the hood, not down the road. When you're focusing only a few feet ahead, you're not seeing what's developing up the road. The result, hazards, danger, and disaster. Now, let's take a brief look at that again. Notice that we couldn't see the person until the last second, when we were almost brushing against him. Now let's take a look at some better ways to deal with this. When we keep our eyes up, we can see hazards developing early enough to take effective measures. One way is to reduce speed. Another way to deal with this kind of hazard, using aggressive visual search, is to change position. Seeing the hazard early also allows you to check for traffic in the lane in which you want to move.
A German study shows that with 1 second of warning, 80% of collisions could be prevented. How do you get that extra second? By looking down the road, not down the hood.
Thank you, Ron. We're moving on. Make sense? Thank you. Fantastic. I meant 80% of collisions can be avoided with an extra second of warning time by just looking up the road and not at your dash. Keeping our eyes moving, how often should we be moving our eyes?
1 to 2 seconds.
Yes, absolutely. You want to be moving your eyes every 1 to 2 seconds. And then we have an example here of an intersection scan. So out of this one here, what is your first visual scan that you should be checking when you're approaching an intersection?
Rear view mirror.
100%. Rear view mirror is the very first thing, just in case you have to brake for whatever reason, because intersections are high probability of a collision. Anything else that you're looking for? Number 2, what are you looking for in this situation?
Pedestrian.
Pedestrians, absolutely. Anything else? Car to the left? Is that what it said? Yes? Car to the left. So the car making a left turn ahead of you. You might be talking about the yellow car, but red car is what we'd be looking for. In all cases, we'd be looking for any car that could potentially be crossing our direction. So red car, yellow car would be what we would look for first. And then I would be looking at what?
Green car braking.
Green car braking, absolutely, to make sure what? That you have
Enough time to stop.
enough time to stop and also enough space ahead of you to stop in that area, not on the intersection line. We also missed something here, pretty important. Close to cyclists that's near us. We'll be watching for that cyclist that's on the roadway, making sure they're not making any left turns that could potentially impede our path. And then we move ourselves up from our lights, our blue car as well, making sure that if they make that turn with the blue cars are going to make a wide turn. So again, looking at the body language of that vehicle. Now we're talking about blind spots. So this blind spot is depicting an ambulance, even though it's a tiny little Civic. With our blind spot, our back of the vehicle is completely obstructed in this situation, so we can't see behind, but we can see what's next to us. Now in your simulator, you did the lane changes and it was talking about risk zone and your blind spot, or your, what was it called? Risk zone and margin, safety margin, I believe is what it was. No, it was risk zone, safety margin, and I think it was just blind spot. I can't remember what the third one is, but you're looking for it. So your risk zone is what?
How close you are to the other people on your left or right?
Slightly. We're looking for, the risk zone is going to be your vehicle that is on the right or left side of the lane that you're going to be entering into. So acknowledging that if you're making a right or left lane change, that if you do it, you're not going to be taking a lane change of the exact same, which could potentially cause a collision, as we're not always expecting a person to be there if the lane is clear. 3 exists on the ambulance, which is the blind spot in the mirror that obscures the presence of a vehicle, the hidden intersection where a vehicle might suddenly emerge on the path of an ambulance, and then directly behind the vehicle as well. Consequences of ignoring the blind spots: sideswipe collisions, which involve operators who change lanes with a blind spot and do not check or fail to see other vehicles and other blind spot in their ambulance. And then collisions can occur when a vehicle backs over someone or something due to the rear blind spot on most vehicles. So reducing blind spots, shoulder checking, turning one's head briefly to see into the blind spot, ensure all mirrors are properly adjusted.
Draw a mustache on.
Yeah, Jared. Oh, buddy.
Alright.
Welcome back.
I'm so tired.
I know, I'm so sorry. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this. Reduce overlap between sides of the rear view mirror by adjusting the side view mirror. Other ways that we can reduce the blind spot is the right side mirror. The right side of the car should barely be visible, and the operator's head between the front seats. This is a way that we can kind of identify. What it's going to show in this next video is that they say you want to move your head slightly to be able to identify where your vehicle position is. You can choose, it's up to you to choose whether you want to do this or if you just want to have constant view of the side of your vehicle. Left side of the mirror, the side of the car should be barely visible when the operator's head is almost touching the driver's side window, and then check to ensure the operator can see cars approaching from behind or either side of the roadway. Ambulance operators should drive through city traffic expecting that vehicles or pedestrians will suddenly appear directly in the path of an ambulance. And we'll watch the video.
In addition to putting on your seatbelt, it's also very important to adjust your rear view and side view mirrors before starting on your journey. First, adjust your rear view mirror. The mirror should be set to fully frame the rear window. The side view mirror should be set to eliminate most of the blind spots on the sides of the vehicle. Let's see how this is done. While seated on the driver's side, adjust the mirror until you just lose sight of the edge of the vehicle. This way, when you slightly tip your head, you can still see the side of the vehicle. This will allow you to see past that blind spot and into the lane next to you. For the passenger side view mirror, while seated in your normal position, adjust the mirror until you just lose sight of the edge of the vehicle. Again, slightly tip your head so you can just see the side of the vehicle. With properly set side view mirrors, you only need to move your head slightly to use them. Properly adjusted mirrors will minimize the view of your blind spot. Take a moment and adjust your mirrors properly. Well-adjusted mirrors can help you avoid collisions and potentially save your life.
So different instructors will have different varying opinions on what you're supposed to do with your mirrors. This one is just trying to take out that, or maximizing the blind spot approach from your mirrors. So not staying the side of your vehicle, you're maximizing on its extent to the other lane. I like having a bit of my car as a reference point if I'm backing up, so I don't have to move my head whenever I'm backing up or anything like that, or I can monitor my tire when I'm making a left or right turn, but this depends on the size of your mirrors as well as what you're comfortable doing. Tips for backing. So for whenever you're performing a backup, I want you to have a visual inventory of your area, so that includes a walk around. Make sure you get a good scene survey, and you're not just looking at your x-axis, but you're looking at your y-axis for anything that could be protruding and that could effectively damage your vehicle. Just mirrors properly, roll down the window to hear your spotter correctly, use your emergency lights, use your backup alarm, and do not start moving if you are unsure of your area. Hand signals. We're going to talk about hand signals. What hand signals do you know? Actually, yeah, you can use this for reference. But what do you know? What do you use? If you're going to help out your buddy back in a U-Haul into your driveway, what are you using? So you got one of these. Okay, this one is, you come on back. What does this mean to you? Straight. Keep yourself straight, okay. What's left and right for you guys? This way, thumbs, okay. And then yours is this way, or finger guns, what was yours?
I just go down.
Just go this way. Okay, so this is kind of clear, absolutely. Unless you're giving 2 thumbs up to the guy next to you type of thing. This is stop for you. Any other one have for a stop? This could be stop, please stop. Or this could be like head in the other direction. It could be discerned for something else. Any other stops? stop with one of these, you can do one of these. Anything else? You go like that?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
things that are like this.
You do the sticks if you're trained in that type of nonsense, or not nonsense, it's really good
actually
stuff.
keeps moving forward, doing this means stop.
There's tons of different ways to do a spot. The main thing is, and there's going to be a video that AMA shows here of what they expect for spotting, but spotting can be anything. You can have any signal as long as it makes sense for your partner, and you discuss it ahead of time. Like the ones that I would practice whenever I'm watching for the depth of the vehicle coming approach. I'm using this bad boy, and I'm imagining that distance, and I'm closing that distance as they get closer, and then as they're nearly there, I cross my hands, and it makes it very clear that they need to come to a stop. But this helps them gauge depth, because sometimes this is not the best, because they just know that you want them to back up, but they don't know how much you want to back up, right? Another one is, I would suggest, maybe it's going to talk about this next one. Okay, let's talk about it. Another one that I would be careful with is something like this, because this could be hi Bob, this could be hello to you. I want you to do two hands, because it makes it very clear as to what your expectations are. They say you want to do this for your left signal, for your right signal, your hand moves. You could do this. Your finger guns, exactly, you could be doing that. Main thing is that you're you're communicating clearly for what your intentions are on that roadway. But that's it. Space cushion. What is our space cushion? How many seconds?
3.
Thank you, please. Leave enough space in between your vehicle and ambulance for an escape route if you need to take the action to do so, especially since you might be going over the speed limit. If the driver receives a call, the ambulance can be maneuvered out of the traffic line. A good rule of thumb is the ability of the driver to see the bottom of the tires of a vehicle in front for a stopping distance. So maintaining a safe following distance helps prevent collisions. Based on the weight of the ambulance and the speed at which it travels, the vehicle requires a minimum amount of distance to stop, so recognizing that distance as well. By maintaining a safe vehicle following distance, the ambulance operator will be able to safely stop the ambulance without rear-ending another vehicle, possibly swerving into another lane and colliding with another vehicle. Follow this 3-second rule. Watch the vehicle front and pass. We already know this bit, but I would suggest if you're driving an ambulance, practice 4 seconds and above at all points. If the environments are less, please travel at a slower speed and offer more space. Following distance guidelines, the way that you're going to be thinking about it is perception distance, reaction distance, and braking distance with your total stopping distance. Now, following distance should be increased as speed increases, as visual conditions deteriorate, and as road conditions deteriorate as well. Your perception and your reaction time is 3/4 of a second, and then the rest is based off of how much what your speed is, what your traction is, and the type of vehicle you're driving. But the ones that you do have control over are your perception and your reaction. So making sure that your foot is in the right position so you can respond correctly, as well as looking well at the roadway so you can perceive whatever is there. Vehicle speed and following distance. So this is just talking about your stopping distance required for varying speeds. So if you're traveling at 64 kilometers an hour or 40 miles per hour, you're going to be stopping within 36 meters. And if you're going 97, you can think about doubling it, tripling it for 73 kilometers an hour or 239 feet. So just recognize the distance is much more when you are traveling at higher speeds, that's basically it. And your traction will be affected based off your weather conditions as well. Increase your following distance in poor weather conditions, at higher speeds, and when following a larger vehicle and when there's poor visibility. So whenever you're following a vehicle, they say you want to see their face in their mirrors, and that's usually a good stopping and following distance for your vehicle. Sometimes you're not able to see their mirrors, but just think clearly. Leave like roughly, I'd say 2 vehicle distances, just in case that vehicle is manual. If it's manual, sometimes they can have rollback, and you don't want to be too close so that you're not hit from behind or from the front. 8-minute speed guidelines. So speed should be moderated to avoid a rollover in turn or curve. This especially is the case since your vehicle is a higher point of gravity or higher center of gravity. Speed should be reduced when the curbside tire leaves the paved or elevated surface on a road to reduce the likelihood of improper returning to the vehicle on a paved surface. So what that means, say if you're traveling on a roadway and there is a gravel shoulder, there is that dip or that inch difference. If you're driving on the road and you get off, that could cause your vehicle to go into a skid or go out of control. So just making sure that you're evaluating ahead of time and keeping your tires nice and neat. So if you do go off the road, you're looking and steering where you need to go and come back smoothly and slowly, not abruptly, because that could cause you to go into a rollover incident or lose control with the skid. Changing lanes and passing. So an ambulance responding to a scene transporting a critically injured patient to a hospital may be required to execute frequent lane changes and passing maneuvers. With lights and sirens on, the driver will need to be extra aware of how drivers may respond, since responses are not always predictable. Check the rear and side view mirrors and shoulder check to ensure lane is clear, and activate turn signal at least 100 feet prior to lane changes in a city and 300 feet on a highway. Maintain the turn signal activation throughout the lane change as well, or the turn. One thing I do want to say, if you ever have a driver following close behind you, make sure you're monitoring your side view mirrors. Use your environment to the best of your ability. Usually on your convex mirror, you will be able to see the vehicle itself, but if you cannot, look for shadows on the road, which can help you identify if there's someone traveling quite close, and also use the curve of a road. So if you notice that your road has a bend, utilize that to see who's behind you, how close they are. As well as if you're traveling straight on a highway and you're not sure if there's anyone behind you, you have no shadows, swerve slightly. And then on your recovery, you can see if there's anyone directly behind you. It just gives you a better sense in the case that you have to brake, if you have enough time to do it smoothly, or if you can just do an abrupt brake if you need to. Crossing intersections. So when crossing an intersection with the light that is green, slow the vehicle to a normal speed or less within the posted speed limit, just to make sure it's safe to cruise by. Visually scan all directions and then proceed. Crossing a red light, you want to be checking all traffic in the other direction and bringing the vehicle. It says to a complete stop, but usually they say yield. So you'd be yielding, checking both ways, but you might need to stop based off of your company policy. And then visually scan all directions and proceed with caution. Turning. When turning an ambulance, the operator should turn and check their mirrors to determine if it is safe to turn. So usually you're gonna have a convex mirror as you're completing your turn, since this is gonna be a vehicle with a bit of a wider distance from the front axle to the rear axle. Make sure you're watching your convex mirror with your back tire. Make sure the back tire is not gonna go over the curb, or you're not gonna run over any toes. You're looking in your mirror to make sure as you're making a turn that your tire is gonna completely crest the roadway and it's not going to run over anything. Your turn signal again should be engaged 100 feet prior to a turn, or 300 feet prior to a turn in a rural area. Turn signal should remain on for the turn. You should verify the signal is off after completing the turn. Excuse me. And then hard turns at high speeds will cause the ambulance to push outward onto the shoulder and into oncoming traffic. Distracted driving. Examples of distracted driving. As we discussed previously, I'm not going to put too much thought into this as we just cruise by this. Distracted driving and first responders. Can you think of any challenges that are unique to the first responders? We discussed this a little bit earlier. So it's going to be your radios, your PA systems, your buttons and knobs, and potentially your patients from behind or your partner, and any obstructions that are in your vehicle as well, like water flasks, anything that could be tipping over. Just be mindful of it as much as you can. Distracted driving and ambulances. Ambulance operators should never use the radio while driving. Your partner should be doing that. Ambulance operators should not be manually dialing cell phones while driving. If a call must be made, they should be pulled over to the side of the road when it's safe to do so. Another option is to use hands-free devices, which will allow the driver to maintain eyes on the road, but usually just let your partner do whatever calls they need to make, or switch seats. Ambulance operators should not read, write, or look at maps while driving, obviously. Causes of fatigue. We know the causes of fatigue, and we know also, or if you didn't know, overeating, use of alcohol or drugs, or even a warm vehicle can cause you to increase the effects of fatigue. If you're driving on long stretches of roadway and you have the only in-cabin air circulation, which does reduce smell, but also locks in very stale air in your vehicle, it could cause you to be fatigued as well. So maybe think of either allowing air from the outside engine coming in, or open your windows to get fresh air in your vehicle to wake you up as well, to avoid fatigue. And then other bits here, we have lack of sleep, emotional distress can get us very sleepy, boredom, driving for long periods of time, or highways, hypnosis, physical activity could get you tired, illness or eye strain could also get you tired. Looking at the sun can also get you tired, so just make sure you're well equipped for whatever situation you have on that list. Ways to address fatigue, we've talked about them before. But here we have it in the page, and I'll let you take a look, and then I'm going to proceed. Fantastic, lovely. So spring and summer hazards. What are some hazards that we can find in particular to the spring and summer times?
More pedestrians.
More pedestrians.
Sun.
Sun, 100%. Higher speeds. Roads are finally thawing out, so people are taking a bit more risks. Anything else?
For newbie drivers, it can be maybe for men's girls goes with a very, how to say it, like without clothes.
Hard to see? Or
No.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
In the center of the downtown, the home, you can look on them like they have nothing.
Are you saying
Yeah.
this? Okay, I see what you're saying now. Yes.
Yeah, I lived in a year and all summer.
There could be distractions in that sense.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. I'll take that answer. But what we might see are more traffic volume.
But yes,
More sunlight hours. More speeding drivers. Children playing on this answer is getting completely. Okay, animals and pets. I've never gotten that answer. Thanks for opening my mind. Okay. So, worse things that we can see through the streets over time. We might see bugs and road right out the window. I need a second. Okay. Greater incidence of driver fatigue and attention. We might see more potholes or road damage and road construction. And we might see greater variety of road users, pedestrians, cyclists, and skateboarders on those roadways. Fall and winter times. What can we see during the fall and winter times? This is crazy. What can we see during the fall and winter? Okay. What can we see during the fall and winter?
Trash.
Trash, yes. What else?
More visibility.
Less visibility, 100%. What else?
Slow driving.
Slow driving is what we need to see, yes.
I mean, damaged cars on the road.
Yes, damaged vehicles on the road, 100%. Or equipment, or whatever it may be. What else do we see on that roadway?
Heavy traffic.
Heavier traffic, kind of said before with traffic volume. Was that said before? I can't remember. Icy intersections is also something we might see. We might see reduced lane space and ruts on the road. We might see grand sand and gravel thrown up from vehicles on the road as well, from snow plows or any units that might be there. I'll see ice clumps on the road and dropped vehicles. This is great. I can't stop giggling.